Colleagues from industry, members of the academic community, and the critically important participants from civil society. First of all, I extend a warm welcome to each of you as you begin your vitally important discussions in the coming days about how, together, we can explore new frontiers and opportunities to shift the mining sector into a new and more sustainable paradigm. It is important to recognize that mining is critical to the development of our planet. It is the source of raw materials for the manufacture. It is so often the primary means to uplift countries, in particular, emerging markets, and more narrowly, to communities that oftentimes have no other way to kickstart their growth and development. Mining is the cornerstone of infrastructure development and offers the critical mass needed to build associated industries. With that comes the requirement for education of engineers, accountants, builders, architects, and a host of other skills and disciplines that can provide the flywheel that will drive broader, more sustainable economic growth. But it is also important, first, to reflect on the fact that mining is, by its very nature, an invasive activity. It disturbs the land and uses scarce resources like water and power. It depletes a finite resource, and in myriad ways, it disrupts established local communities within a wide sphere of influence. We should be plain. The world's mining sector has not always discharged its enormous responsibility to governments and communities with requisite care and diligence. Promises have been made and not kept. Risks have been misunderstood routinely, underestimated, and poorly communicated. The needs of communities have been misjudged, or in some cases, ignored. Technology has been underutilized or sidestepped altogether when the going gets tough, with a tendency to slip back into the familiar, tried and tested ways of doing business. Serially poor decision-making and an inability to take a counter-cyclical approach to investment has destroyed capital and left investors nursing large losses over time. On the other side of the coin, many host governments have misspent, mismanaged, or misdirected the proceeds from the development of their national patrimony. Not enough of the tax take from mining is spent on communities that feel its impact most. In many cases, labor leaders and unions have allowed unrealistic expectations to take root, and investors, more often than not, have been swept up in the hysteria of commodity cycles, urging management teams to zig when common sense says they should zag. They have, in many cases, been enablers to the poor decision-making that has destroyed billions of dollars in value in this sector over time. The net result of this collaborative dysfunction is that this industry finds itself in a perilous state. Companies are often at war with their host governments, who feel hard done by and are demanding a bigger slice of the pie. Governments, like our own, respond by enacting job-killing legislation. Communities are increasingly saying no to new projects and disrupting mines already in operation, shutting off an important source of investment and economic activity. Labor relations are becoming increasingly fractious and violent, and investors are voting with their checkbooks, raising the cost of capital to mining ventures. Dozens and dozens of large new projects are stalled, mothballed, or simply abandoned, robbing host governments of billions in investments, taxes, and foreign earnings, and sterilizing thousands of jobs. The Isquel project in Argentina is a promising new gold discovery with amazing geology in a poor part of the country, racked by unemployment and lack of opportunity. Development was halted by local communities afraid of pollution, inflation, and broken promises. The rallying cry of the NGO coalition was, quote, "Beware of the man in hard hats promising salvation," close quote. It worked because there was an ample evidence to support the claim at its essence, that mining brings hardship, not redemption. The project remains stalled and is likely never to be developed. There are dozens of similar examples the world over. The mismatch between expectation and reality, between potential and actual delivery, has been something that has occupied my mind for some time. Like all of its peers, AngloGold Ashanti has had its fair share of humbling experience over its long history. And we have invested a significant amount of time, energy, ingenuity, resources, and goodwill into improving our performance in the broad area of sustainability. This is not an attempt to curry favor with any particular stakeholder, but rather an essential set of interventions to strengthen the very foundation of our business and ensure we maintain our license to operate. This is true of environmental stewardship, air and water management, public health, local economic development, tax, culture, labor relations, skills transfer, and eventual closure and rehabilitation of mines, many of which have operated for half a century or more. The list goes on. More broadly, I see a critical need to demythologize the concept of green mining, to take it out of the realm of glossy pictures in annual reports and into practical, workable reality that benefits all stakeholders, starting with local communities that have so much to gain from an improved long-term approach to mining, all the way through to the pension funds that provide capital to earn a return for their members. This group gathered here in Cape Town this week brings together some of the finest minds in the field who will approach this challenge from different perspectives. My hope for this week's discussions and deliberations is that we can well and truly move away from the notion of sustainability as a soft metric and find practical ways to apply it in practice, embedding it in the design of a mining operation. Only by making the long-term welfare of communities and the environment the foundation of our operating strategy and a core part of our operational DNA will we build in the true resilience and long-term risk mitigation that we so desperately need. We need to have an open and honest conversation about risk and trade-offs we make with all various stakeholders. Only that way will we be able to manage expectations, improve our risk management, and ideally turn risks into opportunity. The excess water challenge facing ultra-deep level mining in South Africa is a perfect case in point. As we speak, there is a lot of thought going into viable ways to bring that water to big metros in Gauteng, which face perennial shortages. By harnessing the collective expertise and experience of this diverse group of people who are motivated to create positive change, we can explore and hopefully unlock new financing models that will develop a new generation of sustainable mines. We need to think outside of the normal constraints that have kept mining a relative backwater in a world that technology is changing at breakneck speed. And we have to bring all stakeholders along for the journey. We must use this valuable time together as a catalyst to move beyond this industry's current dysfunction, and to provide a vision of what a transformed, inclusive future might look like. A future with a robust and responsive regulatory landscape, where we engage meaningfully with employees, communities, and other stakeholders. A future where we provide a fair deal that leaves no one behind. It is an outcome that has, at its core, an industry that is not only profitable, but also sustainable, with the promise of a real and lasting contribution to the economic development of our host countries and our continent, while safeguarding our planet for generations to come. This is the future we all aspire to.